President Barack Obama is asking the Environmental Protection Agency today to reconsider California's desire to increase emission standards for cars. I'm here with Andy Revkin to ask him a little bit about the implications of that decision. So Andy, can you give us a little bit of background about this particular decision and California's desire? I know they've been wanting to have this for a long time.
Yeah, well, California has for decades had a pattern of moving out ahead of the federal government on clean air standards, and they won the right to do that a long time ago. And they now feel, under Governor Schwarzenegger, that CO2, carbon dioxide, is just as legitimate a pollutant, something to regulate, as the old stuff that we've cleaned up with other mechanisms. And this has been several years in the making. They've been pushing. The auto industry has been fighting in court in California and also resisting through pressure in Washington. The Bush administration resisted this relentlessly, and they always were trying to portray auto efficiency as a federal initiative unrelated to climate.
Are there concerns legitimate in that the auto industry, as I understand it, will often say that they'd rather not have to deal with a number of statewide initiatives because it would be incredibly difficult and complex to manufacture to multiple standards? Yeah. Is that a legitimate concern of theirs, or?
I saw one figure where something like 40% of America's car market already is kind of signed on in a way, in theory. So that will lead inevitably to what this happened under the Clean Air Act as well. Mm-hmm. This big expanding push among the states leads to some federal resolution in the end.
So is this a bold move by the administration, or is it something that we thought was going to come?
It really was the kind of thing that most everybody expected. He had laid out that his intention to do this. Overall, it's seen as low fruit, I think. Signing a piece of paper is different than pushing forward with Congress to write a new bit of legislation. California now will face its own hurdles in trying to move this forward in court, for sure. But it was the kind of thing that on anyone's list, as you head toward a world in a country that's going to be less dependent on fossil fuels and producing fewer emissions with a growing economy, we need the new technologies and we'll need cleaner cars. It's that simple. So everyone sort of said it's inevitable.
So what does this say in a kind of, if we were able to step back a bit, what does this say about Barack Obama and the new administration's approach to climate change in general?
He's made it clear that despite the political inconvenience of dealing with things like higher energy standards for cars, even if it makes them a little more expensive, even amid an economic a time of economic retrenchment, he's saying this is a sustained priority for him. And he's already shown this potential ability to kind of stick with something he thinks is important, even when it's politically inconvenient.
So is Obama proving to be our first truly green president?
Well, that's an interesting question. You know, Richard Nixon could probably, supporters of Nixon could say he was our first green president, Teddy Roosevelt. I guess you could say he could be in the pantheon of presidents who did things like create the EPA, which Nixon did, or push ahead on a big parks program like Roosevelt did. The potential is there.